So I'm going to go out of order from your handout, right? So you're just going to have to kind of find them as you go and write notes.
Thanks, guys.
Because to me it makes more sense just to kind of go like through one side and then the other. All right, so we'll start right here. You can see this muscle, it makes a V right underneath the chin. That's the digastric. You can see it's like a thin flap. I can pull it up a little bit there. So it's this outside part that's making a V is the digastric. Think about like the digastric's where you like pet your cat. It's right under the chin. Okay. Then below that, we have this muscle group right here. In cats, it's actually two muscles, so we haven't separated them because in humans it's one muscle. So it's just an anatomical difference, but we haven't separated the muscles, so it's these that run along the side of the neck. So I'll just pin right here.
What was that called?
This is the sternocleidomastoid.
Okay.
Okay, it tells you its origin and insertion, right? So sterno refers to the sternum, right? Clado refers to the clavicle, and then mastoid is running up here to that process on the jaw, right? So it's
like
running
really-
it's running between here. And you can kind of
So it's like an Arnett.
yeah. Right, so that's a good one for the actual origin insertion because the name of the muscle is kind of telling you. Okay. Then below the sternocleidomastoid, we have this big muscle, right? It makes a big V across the chest. So what's that one called?
Pectoralis major.
Pectoralis major. Okay. And then we have these. I've had to kind of cut that away, and you can see these muscles in the arm. So what's the one on top of the humerus called?
Biceps brachii.
Biceps brachii. Make sure you have the brachii. That refers to it being in the arm. Okay, and the one below the humerus?
Triceps brachii.
Triceps brachii. Okay, so again, remember you need to have the whole name, not just biceps or triceps. Biceps brachii, triceps brachii. Okay. Below that, we can see we've cut away some of that pectoralis major to expose this muscle underneath. So those are all just blood vessels, so ignore that. But you can see there's these white lines running through here. Those are the ribs. And you can see there's muscle in between each rib. So the muscle in between the ribs is the intercostals, right? Between ribs. Costal refers to the rib. Okay.
External intercostals?
Yeah. That's probably on it.
So the muscle between the ribs.
Yep. Okay, below that you have this part that's outlined. It has this layer of white connective tissue on top of it. See that? It's almost impossible to separate that connective tissue without ripping the muscles, so we leave it intact. That's the rectus abdominis. Okay? Again, you can't write abs or abdominals, right? Rectus abdominis. To the sides of the rectus abdominis, we have these muscles, right? And they kind of go in a V shape. Okay? What are those?
Internal obliques.
External
External.
obliques, right? And then the internal obliques are another thin layer of muscle that's actually underneath it. And
Okay.
I don't think it's exposed on this one,
Okay.
but it is on that cat, and I can show you guys that
It's
in
a
a
good
second.
idea.
Okay, so obliques, then the legs are kind of what I think is the most difficult. So you have these superficial muscles. You can see we've cut it away to expose the ones beneath. So let's learn the superficial one first. So this one, you can see it's attaching up at the hip, right, to the ilium. Okay, and then it runs across and is connecting again where that knee joint is down to the tibia. So that's the sartorius. Again, this is a good one for origin and insertion because you can see that it's going to that ilium, right? Okay, below the sartorius, you have this muscle group. You can see it's multiple muscles, but we're just learning it as a group. He writes on your handout the quadriceps femoris, or you can call it the quadriceps group since it's multiple muscles. Okay? And again, you need to write the whole name, not just quads. You need to write quadriceps group or femoris. Okay. Below that, we move on to sort of the inner thigh. Okay? You can see this muscle here on the outside. It's running from the pubic bone over to the tibia. Okay? And again, we had to cut that away to expose the muscles underneath it, and that's called the gracilis. So this is the gracilis, the more superficial muscle of the inner thigh. Underneath that, you have three muscles that you have to identify. This first one makes this A shape, so that's the adductor femoris. Okay? And then the next one below that, this one is the semimembranosus. And then this is the semitendinosus. So they go in alphabetical order, right? Adductor femoris, semimembranosus, semitendinosus. And don't get confused by the pictures in your book because these two actually sort of cross each other. But you can see we've kind of separated them. So the semimembranosus will always be the one in the middle on the dissection. Okay? So all of those are deep to this flap of muscle, which is the gracilis. Okay. We have this one on top of the tibia. So what's that one called?
The soleus or like gastrocnemius.
Tibialis anterior, right? It tells you exactly where it is. Tibialis refers to it being on the tibia. Anterior refers to it being on the front of the body. So tibialis anterior. Okay, now we can flip it over. Okay. So we have this one right here, right? So you commonly call the calf, that's the gastrocnemius. Okay. And then this big muscle here, okay, on the back of the leg that you would commonly call the hamstring is going to be what? What do you think it's called? Biceps femoris, right? Because performs the same action as the biceps brachii, right? Just the joint is facing the opposite direction. Okay? So biceps femoris. That's why it's really important that you write the whole thing out. Okay. Then we have these muscles. There's these muscles right here. They're just along the side or along the tailbone, right? Obviously we don't have a tail and the cat does. That's the gluteal group or the gluteus maximus. Obviously it's a lot less pronounced in the cat because the cat is a quadruped. Humans are bipedal, so that's one of the characteristics of being bipedal is having an enlarged gluteal group. Okay. And then from there we can move up into the back. So you can see this muscle right here. It makes a V on the back. Okay, that's the latissimus dorsi. Again, you guys probably call them your lats, but you need to write the whole thing. Latissimus dorsi. Dorsi again tells you where it is. It's on the back, right? Okay. Then above that, you can see there's this muscle group coming up here. It makes a diamond. It covers the entire upper back, essentially. And I just always pin it right on top of the scapula, so it's in the middle. That's the trapezius. Same thing. You can't call it the traps, right? Trapezius is the full name. Okay. And then the deltoid isn't very well exposed on this one, but the deltoid is this muscle group right on the shoulder. Okay. And then from there we have two more. So you have this one that's on top of the head. I think that it's above the temple. So what do you think that's called? Temporalis. Yep, the temporalis, right? It's sort of on top of the head. And then the last one we have, did we already do this one? The masseter. So that's the one that's on the cheek, right? So that's another good example for the origin and insertion, right? So it's connecting to the mandible, and that's what's actually being moved. So that's going to be the insertion, right? And then up to the mastoid process. Okay. Masseter, remember that it allows you to chew. So masticate means to chew, or like masticar in Spanish means to chew. So if that helps you remember masseter.
Spanish class real quick, okay.
Whatever can help people relate. And that's pretty much it. So you guys feel free to go back through and identify them on your own.